Welcome to the Hub Summit. I'm NaKeesha, I'm your host, and I am so happy that you are here to learn more about the beautiful melanated health and wellness practitioners that we have within your community. And this beautiful soul is one of my favorites. This is Miss Renee. She is an end of life doula or a end of life specialist who specializes in sacred death practices and grief legacy for the Black and Brown communities. Welcome in, Renee. How you doing, boo?
I'm going good. Thank you for having me, Nakisha.
Of course. Now, y'all, look, Renee, as by now you've probably seen all of the other beautiful and wonderful practitioners that we have. This one is a special one to my heart because she has helped me personally, me through my deaths, and not only just deaths in family, but the grief of leaving and moving from one place to another. And she makes it so practical where it's almost impossible for you not to know what it is that you're going through and how it's okay to feel the feels and accept it and know that death is a part of life. And she's your number one go to person. So I am so happy to welcome in Miss Renee. Give it up for her, y'all. Give it up for her. Right. Renee. We met on TikTok. Yes, we did.
We
Yes, we did.
did. Yeah, about a year ago now.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
It's been
Come
that.
October, yeah. It's been about a
Yeah,
year. And
yeah.
since that time, we have both evolved and elevated and expanded. What is the one thing, what is the one thing that you thought when you came to my life the first time? What was the thing that you thought?
How captivating you were. I think that it was like your personality really shone through, and just your passion and what you were teaching.
Mhm.
It was very simple, but yet it was very deep. And that's what really drew me in, was just the topic of conversation. And then later on I learned about what your services were and what that topic led to. But it was just really just taking the time to learn and to listen to what it is that you had to say. But it was really your energy that drew me in.
Let's go. And so
Mhm.
I want to share with you guys, like, I remember the very first time when I actually saw Renee, and Renee popped up on my screen because she was doing an ancestral reading and ancestral scan with her family. And that moment was so awe inspiring because the person that you see right now was not the person that was in that moment at all. She wasn't there. She wasn't there. This woman was the one that I met was very soft and like demure, but so tapered down that it was like she was trying to find herself.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see her with her eyebrows and her green hair and her style coming through with confidence and boldness. And her being able to be in a space where her heart can show its deepest form of compassion for people who are dealing with grief. And so a lot of times people take grief and they make it this really mundane thing where you have to wallow in grief and you have to stay there while you wallow. The beautiful thing about Renee is that she shows you ways in where grief doesn't have to be such a sacrificial type lamb situation, but it could be something that you can feel inspired and love in the grief. Renee shares with us the tools and she gives us the full tools of understanding that grief is not a bad thing, but it's a form of love and how great your love for that person and or things or places were in your life. So as we go on a little bit deeper, I know you guys are going to fully experience all of this beautiful things and the beautiful knowledge and the wonderful gift that Miss Renee is to not only to this world, but within our community and to me as well. With that being said, let's get started. Renee.
Yes, ma'am. I do
So
I feel moved for sure.
I love it.
One thing that I do know, I'm on a journey. It feels pretty grand, right? Because I feel like I'll be going against a lot of societal norms, right? When it comes to death and grief and what does that look like? What does it even mean? And I think that it's a challenge. I think it'll be a challenge simply because I think that on a societal level, we all have to unlearn what grief is. And on
Mhm.
a communal level, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And how do we show up for not only others, but also ourselves when we're grieving?
And it's very important because the way that we show up for ourselves in grieving can be the catapult or the weight that moves us forward or holds us back. And our
Absolutely.
overall idea within this community is to show you ways that it's okay for you to move forward in love in
Mm.
everything that you do. With that being said, the sanctity of death and the death phobic culture, right? What are our communities are experiencing so much loss, yet death is often treated as a medical failure or something to be hidden. How has this cultural death phobia and the sterile medicalized approach to dying compounded our grief and trauma?
Well, for sure. I think that we've all experienced it, right? We've been engulfed by how death has been this huge taboo, right? It's turned into this unspoken thing that no one wants to talk about. We tiptoe around it. It's been sanitized and feared, right? When we don't talk about death. It's like Bruno. We don't talk about that,
We
right?
don't talk about
Um,
Bruno.
right. And what it's done, it's removed it. Like that has removed death from our everyday life, which to me is silly because we go through deaths all the time.
All the time.
But it's only been reserved for when it's something that's medical, right? When someone has physically passed away. So instead of it being looked at as something that needs to be shared emotionally and something that's sacred, like because it is a sacred human experience that we know for sure we will all die at some point, right? Whether it's something that happens very sudden or is an onset slow experience, but that's one thing that we is inevitable that we will all die. But this because of the way that death has been sanitized and washed and it's really left us grieving in isolation. It's
Mhm.
left us feeling like grief is only like a medical issue where if we're grieving for too long or if it looks different from someone else's that something is wrong with you. It's taken away the rituals that came about with grief that allowed us to grieve and mourn properly. But it's definitely stripped us of a lot of things that we do need, a lot of practices that we do need um to move along, and to use grief as the portal that I always do talk about, so we can get to the other side of what that looks like.
I love that. I love that. As an end of life doula, you provide what is often called the death midwifery. How does your role differ from a hospice nurse or a funeral director? And how do you specifically help families reclaim agency and sanctity at the end of life?
Well, an end of life doula, comparing to hospice nurse or funeral director, we more so hold space for the dying or the family of the individual that is dying. It's more spiritual. It's more on the spiritual end of things. It's not medical or so much for, I know funeral directors, they do more so the end of life, but we're there for the entire whether it's from the minute that someone's gotten sick, or we can even assist individuals who aren't actively dying, right? Because we do know that we will be dying. An end of life doula can be utilized for the planning of a death, whether that's something that's expected or unexpected. But we just truly hold space, emotionally, spiritually, and take and bringing back the rituals that we talked about that has been stripped away, bringing back the compassion and the empathy that comes with that process. And also, like I said, holding sacred space for the individual that is dying and for their family during and after death has occurred.
I love that. That's something to like to sit back and think about. Like, I absolutely love that. When it comes down to rituals for reclaiming or of reclaiming and healing, what are some powerful, accessible ancestral death rituals from very diasporic traditions that families can incorporate, regardless of whether they are in the hospital or at home, to honor a loved one and to begin the healing process?
There's a lot of things I think that we can participate in to reclaim that. I think that there's a lot of rituals that a lot of cultures are still practicing. Though it might not be in the home, it might look slightly different than what they were doing years ago, hundreds years ago. But I think that we can still incorporate something as simple as having a I know that we in our community, the African American community, candle vigils are really big. Though that is still a ritual that we partake in, right? Where lighting candle is a way to facilitate a clear path for the individual who's passed away, to remember their life. So that's really big, lighting candles. Ancestral altars, we talk that, you hear that's becoming more of a trend where people are talking about having ancestral altars. We see that in the Asian community, right? When you go into like a
Mhm,
restaurant or a nail salon, they are very big
mhm,
on having their altars up, having pictures. I went to a Thai restaurant the other day, and they were putting out food for their ancestors. Um, just out in plain open, right? We don't tend to question it. I think sometimes we look at it like, oh, okay, whatever. Really is just our ancestors and the ones that for them.
Hold on.
So if that's leaving food,
When you're talking about the ancestral altars, right? I want people to know this is something that we do as African Americans, right? We have a wall in our home of pictures of all of our family members. The family
we
wall.
do.
That
Hmm.
family wall is actually your ancestral altar. We just make it a wall, but it's still the same ritual that we would have in honor in order for us to honor the people who have come and gone before us.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a
But I
that's a
think that
basic practice.
yes, that's
Yeah.
pretty basic. Yeah, and I don't think because we've been so disconnected, right? And think that we don't realize exactly what that looks like. But and it doesn't have to. I think that people when they think of altars, they think of, tons of flowers, and they think of like the candles
Or the
and
church.
all the church, right, right. It has to be this grandiose thing, but it can be something as simple, like you said, just having grandma's picture up and being able to walk past that every day and still having her presence there through those pictures. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. I
So
love
that's
that.
something that we still practice. I just think that it's been washed, right? And so we don't realize exactly um where that's coming from, and why do we do it? But it's just something
Hmm.
that we do.
Hmm. I agree with that. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to cut you off. It was just one of those things like, hey, this is
Yeah.
something that we actually do, but we don't take note of it as a form of ancestral practice.
Yeah.
The Asians do it. Um, the
Hindus.
Latin, the Hindus do it. Latins,
Mhm.
Mexicans, De los
Mhm.
Muertos. Like we have. These are all the signs that it's a practical, natural thing for us to have ancestral understanding. It's it's a practical thing to not worship them, but honor the fact that they came before you in order for you to have life, right? So it's a beautiful thing to honor the dead.
Absolutely. But it's been washed in a way where,
You
especially
can
with
say
the
whitewash. It's okay.
well, when it's
We're
washed,
not
it
on
can't be
TikTok. We
nothing
ain't
else
on
can
TikTok.
listen, nothing else can listen. We know it's been washed. It's been washed and bleached.
Uh-huh.
But I think that a lot of cultures are still very much connected to their ancestors in so many ways, but for reasons be that us African ancestry tends to be demonized and looked at as if, oh, you're doing a woo woo or voodoo. Like, people tend to label it and mislabel it in so many different ways. And yeah, not honoring those who coming before you is a great step. I think that a lot of people are missing, and really need to go back to.
That's definitely a ritual that I agree. I'm all for it. Um, so many of our communities are dealing with unattended grief. And I know this is something that I've talked to Bina, Dr. Berry about. Losses couldn't properly mourn during the violence of what happened with George Floyd, all of the people that were unalived in that space, COVID restrictions or distance, having someone passing away, and I can attest to this during the pandemic, is so mortifying. It's horrible because you didn't have the opportunity to either go to their wake or their funeral or be by their side when they passed away. With that being said, how can we create rituals now to mourn those we've lost sometimes years ago? What would be your input on that?
Well, I think the beauty of rituals is that it's not bound to time, right? Like there's no, oh, it's too late, you've missed your mark. Because grief is, unless it's moved, it'll always be. You will always be stuck in grief until you physically, um and consciously with intention do things to make sure that you're allowing yourself to feel it and move through
Mhm.
it, allow it to move through you so you can then, um kind of jump back into your newfound reality, right? Because to have grief, it means that you've lost something, that now after that particular loss things have changed, whether that's yourself or just the people that you have in your life. And so I think that you have to name the grief. I think it's important to name it, right? To say it out loud, whether that's writing it down, but to get it from here to out here, where it's very in your face and tangible in a way. Because I think that we tend to hide from it. Um, and because we live in a culture that doesn't give us tools or ideas to grieve in a healthy manner, we think that, oh, I'm just going to jump back into work. Life goes on is what tends to be said in a way. But I think
Mhm.
that it's important to name the grief, be able to, I miss so and so. Like I didn't get to say goodbye, and to create a safe space. Right, first is to name the grief and create a safe space where you're able to express your grief, whether
Mhm.
that's in your home or going to a favorite park, or whether that's in your journal or whatever that looks like, but still having a safe space for you to bring that grief to, or to bring those feelings to, so you're able to express it. It doesn't have to be in a group setting with anyone else. It can just be you yourself, but it's a safe space, for you to cry, scream, curse, whatever that is appropriate at that moment. But my number one favorite, when I do talk to people that are in that space, I like to tell them to write letters, like write a
Yeah.
letter in present tense to this individual, or whatever you're mourning, right? Because my biggest message is to let people know that grief comes in different forms. It doesn't have to look like someone passing. So whatever it is that you're mourning, write a letter to it, place, person, whatever, but express how you truly feel. Um, and then once you're done with the letter, I like to say bury it, burn it, rip it, ball it up, chuck it, but you're symbolically, physically symbolically allowing yourself to
Yeah.
purge of those feelings, right? You're not
Mhm.
holding on to those feelings. So you are letting it out and you're then transforming it, right? I would love for people to be able to alchemize the grief for what it truly is. And then my second favorite thing that I like to share with people, tell a favorite story. Like, let's hear, I want to know,
That part.
like, I want to, like, let's talk about the person. If it's especially like, it's usually a person, right? When we talk about grief, like, I want to know their favorite, like, funny stories. That's my favorite. Like, tell me a funny story. Like, let's laugh. Like, let's bring this person back to life, right? In the Mexican culture, they say we die twice. The day that we
Right.
physically part, and then the day that the last time a person bring us up is
Right.
usually when we die the second time. And it's like we've lost them in the physical form, but as we know, in the spiritual world, there's physically they're gone, but they're still around us. They're still within us, right? As we are an extension of our loved ones. So let's bring them back alive. Like, let's talk about a funny story. Let's wear their favorite color. Let's listen to their favorite song, eat their favorite food, allow them to live through us as we still have the opportunity to do so. But
Hold
we
on.
can still celebrate.
Because she got me on this one, okay? I was planning last year, this time almost on Christmas. Christmas Day is my mama's birthday. My mama is no longer here on this earth physically. And I was planning on having like a nice little celebration, but because I was trying to make it fun for my son, this is the time where he was coherent, right? He's now coming into his consciousness. So
Mhm.
creating these traditions for him was one of those things that I was really adamant about. And I didn't realize that I was suppressing my feelings because I was missing my mom at the same time because my mom's not here to partake in these new traditions. And so I went live on TikTok and I was like starting to get real sad. And Renee was like, I know this is hard for you. And I'm like crying on the side. So the little one didn't see me crying because his birthday is also in December at the same time. So it's a lot going on emotionally.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm trying my best not to cry, but I miss my mom because these are the things that we would do. And I'm getting teary eyed right now. And so Renee popped in. She was like, tell me a funny story about her. And it was one of those things where I was able to share something funny. And I'm getting teary eyed about it right now because I miss my mom. But being able to share something funny that me and my mom went through with someone like not brings the sadness, it brings the sadness of knowing that that person isn't there, but being able to look at her and she knows the story, it makes me happy because now my mom and that story can now live in someone else.
Yeah, and I remember the story, by the way.
And so now that's my new tradition. Like when I go on live, if y'all want to know what that story is, I'm going to share that story on live, wherever that is, be it inside of the hub,
Mhm.
be it on YouTube, wherever. Y'all going to hear that story come Christmas because that's now my new tradition and my new way of honoring my mother because of Renee. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I know I'll get, what I when I'm a crisis specialist for the people that don't know. So I do get a lot of calls with individuals that are battling grief. And so I'm like, I know you're crying right now, but like I get a funny story? And then, at the end of the call we're laughing, and you get, like I said, being able to alchemize it, that energy is just, it's amazing. It really brings you back closer to life. I think that that's what it is, right? It's when we focus on death and why we have these conversations, it brings you back closer to life, because those are the moments where it's like, dang, like we really had a good time. Like, we had those moments, and I get to still have those moments and cherish those moments. And the beauty of it and the magic that we have as humans is being able to bring ourselves back to a certain time and space where we can feel those emotions, and even down to like smelling certain things. So we can time travel. It's like if you're able to do that and allow yourself to be in the presence of a loved one, you can. It's not how you would like it to be at the moment, but we're magical people, and I think that we were able to do that. And if we were to just focus on that a little bit more, we won't be in so much pain when it comes to grieving.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Now, with that being said, Miss Renee is found in both of our communities inside the hub. You can find her in the hub part, meaning the healing in black part, and then you can also find her in the soul tribe community. Because as she was stating before, healing your soul is important, and understanding grief and how death applies to you as a person is important, but there's a soul and a spiritual aspect to it. So she deals with both sides. If you're interested, I would love to offer you to check out the several subscriptions that we have in regards to our community in order for you to connect with her on a deeper level, in order for her to share more stories and more ways to help you process your grief and to utilize the fact that she is a crisis specialist. And if you need her services, you can just go right there to the community. You'll have full access to her, and she'll be there to help you. So make sure you check in that subscription part.
Yes. Let's tap in.
Tap in. All right. So for someone facing an impeding loss of a loved one, what are the most important conversations you encourage them to have to ensure that dying person's wishes are respected and the family feels prepared? What are your says on that?
I think that for someone who's experiencing impeding loss, for that is how lucky, right? How lucky to still have that time to be able to have those conversations, because a lot of us, death is very, it's unwelcome. It's not, it's unexpected, right? A lot of us, it's sudden death, where we fell ill overnight. Some people, they go to sleep and not wake up. But to I think that there's a beauty in, like, to know that, especially when someone's on their deathbed, or if they're in hospice, or if they're having a challenge that is a lifelong challenge, where they know that at some point it's inevitable that they won't survive that particular situation. So it leaves an open space, a very vulnerable space that I think a lot of us sometimes tend to avoid, just simply because it brings forth a lot of pain. And I think that people think if they have that conversation, it's bringing on that onset reality. But in honesty, um, I think that we should all have these conversations. I
Mhm.
just recently I had a call where it was a particular individual who fell ill, and it was unexpected, and I had to let her know, like, hey, like, it's not a bad idea to have that conversation, especially with your daughter. She's a single mom. And so I've been in that space where I've had to have these hard conversations with my child, even though he was very young. But that's what really started me on this journey of being an end of life doula, and realizing that, like, wait a minute, we're not having enough of these conversations for a situation that we know is going to happen. Now
It's
we don't know.
inevitable.
Right. So we don't know. It could be a week from now, it could be 6 weeks, it could be months, years from now, but at some point it happens. So why not prepare for it?
Yeah.
And so when some of the I think I came up with some important questions to ask a loved one that is on their deathbed. And and it also makes the process much easier, especially with people with big families. Like, I've
Mhm.
heard of nightmares where the matriarch or the patriarch of the family falls ill, and the entire family just falls apart just simply because they weren't prepared, right? Especially in a time of crisis when emotions are running high.
Mhm.
um and not all of us, as we know, we not all processing our emotions properly. We're not communicating, especially at a time like that. So taking the time to talk to someone that we know is falling ill, and to just prepare, I would say to ask them what matters to them, like at this point in their life, at their final
Uh,
chapter. What matters to them? I think that's when your values shine the most, right? It's not about um what you've gathered, and I also have a lot of conversations with individuals that are on hospice, and I get to really get like a special window to really get to see, like, in the minds of someone who is passing, like what is it now? That you might not be here 6 weeks from now, 3 days from now, even, like, what matters to you at this moment, would be a very important question to ask. um so from that point on, allow them the space and voice their values and what's important to them at that very moment. Um,
Now
anything
to
left
add to
unsaid.
that,
Mhm.
now to add to that, my uncle told me, which I thought was really profound, that my great grandmother told him that you don't know how to live until you die.
Right. And why wait till we're about to die to figure that out? Because now it's too late. Right. So that's
We
my
gotta,
biggest
hold
goal.
on. We gotta touch it. We gotta touch it just a little bit, and they gotta get the rest. They gotta get the rest inside of the community. Okay. This was the most profound. This was what was the most profound moment when I met Renee. She was explaining that we die according to our chakras, and each chakra represents a specific part of your body, and that shuts down. And the one that you have the most, I'm gonna let her finish that part. The one you have the most challenges with, yeah, I'm gonna let her finish that part, and then you guys gonna have to find out the rest in full detail inside the hub. But go ahead, girl.
Yes. So where the challenges lies for us in real time in life, where we're according to our chakras, that would also be determined the experience that we do have while we are actively in the process of dying. And sometimes that can look like a difficult process if we've left things unsaid, like for my that which leads to my second question, right? What's anything that you've left unsaid and unfinished? um like, what is it? Was it that individual you should have said sorry or apologized to 20 years ago because you know that you did them wrong? Or, should you have finished this project that you had? It's because a lot of us, we don't get to live our lives to its fullest capacity, especially when you're living life to what's been given to you, the script that's been given to you. We tend to reserve our wants and sometimes needs, for like this other moment. Like there's always like, oh, I'll figure it out, or I don't know, maybe next lifetime. I'm not sure what it is that we're
Hmm.
reserving these things for, but we tend to we're off track. And I think that we not I think I know at the end of your life, when you're reflecting, there's a moment of reflection that happens. And I don't want to be the woulda, coulda, shoulda person, right? I want to be on my deathbed just smiling.
I did. I did.
Just like, yeah, and even
I
if it's
did.
right, and even if it's the worst of the worst, and as long as I knew that this is something that I wanted to do and no one was harmed, and maybe there was a lesson to learn, but I did it. I wanted to, like, I've jumped out of an airplane. That would be something that I've checked that off my bucket list. Why wait for a specific moment? And so I think that you get to learn a lot from an individual that is at the end of their life when you do ask them that question, because it wakes you up a bit. It definitely rings a bell when you hear an individual on their deathbed, like going down the list of the things that they could have, should have, would have, and now it's too late.
Really.
They've ran out of
Mhm.
time. So then you get to learn, because some things you'll be able to rectify, right? Some things you'll be like, you know what, you want to see an opera, like we'll get you there. And then I think that it just kind of gives you an opportunity to meet them for who they are? I think that's a really
Mhm.
good question to ask. And also end of life, like any of end of life medical wishes. Right? A lot of times children are fighting over the idea that should we resuscitate mom or not? Like,
Mhm.
and so it takes
Mhm.
all of that off the table, right? You've already made it known whether you want to have a DNR, you have an advanced directive, if you have a particular individual you want to be making the calls, at the end of it all, when you're not able to do so for yourself, that's already discussed, and there's no questioning, or why did Mary, because she's the baby of us all, why did she get to make the decisions, and
Cause
Bill
mama
who's
said so.
right. And so it really just takes a lot of chaos off the out of the equation, so everybody knows who does what and everybody plays their roles. I think that's important. And wishes, and what are your wishes for the family after, like, once you're gone? Like, what's the tone? What is it? What are we doing, right? You hear a lot of times when grandma passed away, the family fell apart, grandma was the glue. And so it relieves stress, and it relieves stress from the family, and it also gives what you call like the guiding light, right? You kind of let
Mhm.
everybody know, look out for your sister. She's a little
Call your
right,
brother.
right. So it's still, and it still allows you to feel like you're still guiding, like you're leaving a guide or something for them to follow, and you're still part of the family in a way where you're still calling the.
You
I the
calling the
matriarch.
shots.
I'm calling the shots.
Calling the
I'm calling the
shots.
shots from the afterlife. Believe it or not.
I still got control. Don't play with me.
Mama said.
Mama said, no, she wrote it down. This her handwriting. I know her handwriting. This is what she said. This is what she
Right.
said.
Right. And
I
it also
love it.
gets to, and you also get to detail just about your entire experience. And I'm not that I'm controlling or picky, but who is to put together like the last party of my life but me? Like, who,
Right.
I mean, like, hello, I get to tell I'll tell you what I'm putting on. I'm telling you what to put on, the setting, the mood. Like, it could literally be down to what's being served. Right? The colors of that everyone gets to put on and why. I think that's it's a sad thing to do. I remember when I had to do it for my certification, I had to write out my own detailed, like, end of life script, in a way down to like the music. I want incense burning, I want the mood set, I even
Mhm.
down to, I don't want so and so in the room, right? Specifics, honestly. Now I get to see all these videos. I don't know why, but my algorithm is sending me like videos of like people crashing out at funerals because auntie so and so, who everybody knew hated the
Mhm.
deceased, had
Mhm.
popped up, and now everyone's crashing out. Like, why are you even here? So you even get to like detail down to like your list, like, and you can have fun with it. You can have fun with it too.
The one thing that I will say, because I had to go through this, right, with
Mm.
my mother's passing, if you don't do it, someone else will.
And I don't want.
And do you want one, do you if you have children, right? If you have children, do you want your children to take that burden of doing your final wishes when they aren't sure of
What
what to
they were.
do, right? It's not clear.
Mm.
Also, if you want a specific person not to be at your funeral, if you did not honor me in my life, you shouldn't be here in my death, right? You have that power, and even in your passing, you still are holding on to the power in order for you to enjoy and for them to enjoy who you are. Why not leave a lasting legacy? Why not have the final say? Why not have the final word? Like,
As you
do
should. And
it.
yeah, and as we are we control this ship when we're alive. You still have, like you said, you still have the power into controlling on what that looks like for you down to your burial? What does that look like? Is it cremation?
Mhm.
There's a particular gentleman on TikTok that was trending for a while. He was terminally ill with cancer, and he like took everyone on a journey of like preparing his death, like his
Oh,
funeral down to
wow.
his headstone. He even recorded, like, he of course they were recording everything, but he had his headstone up, and he then had his wife and his daughter go to the headstone and take pictures with him there. So like, cuz he wanted to like know how it looked and feel when they were visiting him once he's gone, and he's left tons of messages and videos for his child. I think she just had the baby, so the baby was still very little. And also, like, what was important to you? Like, what would you like to pass on? Like, your legacy? Is it recipes? Is it, it could be just about anything, like a collection of CDs or music, or like anything that really meant something to you, that really represent you in the afterlife, and like leaving that appointed to someone and giving it to someone that would take care of it or pass it along. Those are all things I think that we can think
Honor
about,
you.
not only for ourselves, but when a loved one is passing away, it really does ease up the mourning and the grieving process after the fact, because you know that
Absolutely.
you've met their wishes, and you've done it all. So I think that's very important to have those
I agree.
conversations.
Girl, I'm loving all of this.
Yeah,
I'm loving all of this because it's important, and it's our form of um, the revolt as well, because of the genocides that's happening throughout the world, and not just in certain countries, but it's happening throughout the world. Being able to be in a position where you still have power over yourself, even after death, right?
absolutely.
And reminding your family that all isn't lost because I'm no longer here.
Yeah.
It's very empowering. So let's talk about the world crashing out, right? We see so many things that are happening in our society. We see a lot of things that are happening globally. Collective grief is inevitable, and liberated endings. How can reimagining our relationship with death itself be an act of decolonization and liberation for Black and Brown people?
Yeah, I think it's radical for sure. I think that my entire message, right, when it comes to death and how we need to reimagine it and to relearn it, unlearn and relearn um what's been really stripped of us, because I know for a fact that we had rituals, right? The indigenous, the um before we got colonized, we understood death a lot more than we do now, right? Because we were connected to it on a different level. And I think that reimagining death is reclaiming life, because you are dictating, you're reclaiming your ancestral wisdom, right? Through our indigenous practices. um we are what we're deeply rooted in, and our spiritual connection. I think that we've been disconnected, because for me and how I've looked at it and what I've experienced is, if you're so disconnected to death, it only truly means you're disconnected to life, because that
Absolutely.
it's both and of its same, it's the same, different sides of the same coin, and there's not one without the other.
Mhm.
um so, I mean, the colonizers have done a really great job at stripping us from who we are, and that comes down to rituals and practices. And when it comes to death, I think we definitely had an understanding of what was needed for us to mourn, and then to allow it to be something that empowered us, that pushed us forward. We understood that that was, our bloodline was moving forward, and so there's things that we did and didn't do, so we can alchemize what that is, and how we're connected to our ancestors.
Mhm.
So it is reimagining death in this time of age is definitely reclaiming life, and reclaiming who we are.
I love that. Um, what is your guidance for someone who is not grieving a recent death, but is feeling the weight of collective that grief. The constant news of violence, police brutality, reenactment of old laws, and losses in our community. What would you say to them?
I get this all the time with work, right? Where people are now at the point where they're willing to commit suicide just out of the fear of what's to come, right? I think that we live in a society, it is fear mongers, right? It really puts fear in your heart of you don't know what's to come anymore. Things are being taken away, people are feeling more in danger, unprotected, unseen, unheard. Um, for me, there's particular steps because I'm very aware of the atrocities that is going on right now as we speak, right? Is like where some of
Especially
us
in
are
your home island where you're
yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I've had to, for one, I've learned to disconnect. I know that, yes, we have to be aware of what's going on. Yes, we do. We live in an age of technology where everything is accessible to us within seconds. But at some point, for your own detriment and your own mental health, you have to know when to disconnect and unplug.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not saying where you need to be in this bubble where you don't know what's going on. Well, at times I do feel that way because I'm not giving my attention to just everything that I see. I think that we're so bombarded with so much information and just the downside of the world that we're almost convinced that that's the only thing that's happening, right? Like
Mhm.
it's almost like doomsday every day. Like how?
What is it, Groundhog Day? Like, good night. It's like another one and another one and another one.
Yeah, it is. It's
Hmm.
constant. It's a
Hmm.
constant. We're constantly being fed. And especially here in the Western world, it's not enough, right? Though it's constructed in a way where they specifically want you to only pay attention to certain things. But once you start like listening to like the world news and like really get to see what's really happening, it weighs heavy on you, but
Yeah.
you can only be in the now, right? You can only be in the now for what's in front of you now. Yes, you can make space for your collective grief where you can get together with individuals. People are putting together movements, there's groups, there's spaces where you can make a difference, where you can feel like you are being heard, your concerns, and people wanting to make a difference. So focus on that more, right? I think that a lot
Yeah.
of times people they're like, "Oh, the world is ending. Just let me know when I'm done paying my bills." And there's nothing put. You're not. What are you doing about it, right? You can complain, which is fine, but if you're gonna expose yourself to all these things, give yourself something to work towards, as far as towards a solution, towards the things that you do have a concern about.
You are
Um,
actively choosing mediocrity. That
right.
that's you are actively choosing mediocrity.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, and use fear as a catalyst to like do something, not to, I feel like a lot of us we freeze and not too sure what to do next, but there's so many people out there that wants to do something. They are very proactive and wanting to show up for their community. And so be part of that. It doesn't it's going to happen regardless whether you're at home scared or I'm not telling you to go outside and like do the most, but be smart
Do
about it.
something.
Do something, whether it's having conversations or showing up in rooms and supporting other people who are willing to connect with others. But there's more to be done than for you to be scrolling and then spreading that fear,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
um
Or internalizing that fear.
or internal, which even worse,
Hmm.
internalizing the fear. But like I said, alchemize the fear. Use it as a reason to be part of a cause and to make a difference in what it is that you're concerned about. Deconnecting, not connecting, being able to know when to unplug yourself, give yourself breaks from social media. You have to step away at some point to allow yourself to live, right?
Mhm.
Still giving yourself routines, showing up for yourself, taking care of yourself, taking care of your nervous system. If your nervous system isn't where it needs to be, then there's no challenge, chaos, or anything of that sort. You're not going to survive any of it. You're just going to be lost in the sauce. You have to be on top of your nervous system so you are able to digest what is going on. Um, but because I mean, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than me, but collectively we can make a difference. And so you can either choose to freeze in fear, or you can use that and alchemize it and move
Forward.
forward.
Mm-hmm. 1,000%. 1,000. I'm
Because
always
that's
been.
what, that's what grief does. I mean, grief is really, like I said, it's a catalyst that allows you to move forward if you can use that as a tool. I mean, I've had don't quote me, but I had a caller who called me from one of the neighboring countries from where Gaza is, right? And he was it Czechoslovakia? I don't remember. Oh my gosh, I wish I remember which
It's
country it was. But it
okay.
was so like, hello, you're calling me from where? He was like on the other side of the world. And he was just like, when I answered the call, it was like, they're about to blow us up. Like, what am I supposed to do? What do I do? And in my head, and I'm like, oh man, like this is someone who's literally neighboring. Like, so if anything was to happen, he's literally like the reality of it
Ricochet.
is right.
Yeah.
And I remember being honest, like, sir, let's be honest. If they were to drop a bomb, right? If they were to release a missile, there would be nothing to do. Like,
Yeah.
if we're being honest, it would be nothing to do. But what I can tell you to do today is get up, put on your favorite outfit, go outside, make sure that you are taking care of your business, whatever that looks like. Take care of yourself, be around your loved ones, be around your friends, do your favorite things. Live every day like it's your last day, as you don't know, you don't know. And him, and I
That's a
remember him
reality.
saying, like, yeah, you're right. Like, because what am I supposed to do? When you're if you're anticipating so much, like, you're wasting your time and energy, right? When you're
Mhm.
anticipating the worst, because it might happen. And if it does, you just wasted the little bit of time that you could have brought yourself to, the little bit of time that you could have
Moment
brought
of
yourself
happiness.
joy, the
Hmm.
happiness, the gathering of community and with your loved ones. And then if it doesn't happen, you just then wasted your energy of
For
not,
nothing.
so either way, it's like, what is there to do? But
That also applies in the things that you have in your life.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is not just a, in that right there. That's a whole reality check. But we
Mhm.
also have these reality checks when we leave a person or a person leaves us,
Mhm.
right? We can spend our time mourning that person because of the decision that either you or that person made, or we can make a choice to move forward and find something different, right? Feel the feels, but don't stay there because you're wasting more time and you end up being in a repetitive cycle. And you are going to talk about that later inside of the hub. But we end up going into a repetitive cycle and we have a mental block and
Yeah.
time is wasted,
Time is
right?
wasted.
and and she's going to dive into that more when you go ahead and click that subscription button right there wherever it is on this thing, okay? But it's important for you to utilize that space and that time for your grief in all areas of grief, all areas, be it a bomb may come and take you out today, or you get a divorce tomorrow, or you lost your child, or you start a new job, or you have to move.
Mhm.
All of these things are forms of griefs that we all have to come to reconciliation with.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that We you understand because we both understand grief is a daily thing that happens to us often, and it
Yes,
doesn't have to be something so huge and impactful, but time is precious with everyone.
with
We don't
everyone.
know where when we're going to pass away.
Yeah. And yeah, for sure. And that's why we need to have more of these conversations, because then
And
it'll
we are.
constantly remind you. Yeah, it'll constantly remind you. I mean, today we're a day closer to our death. Let's just
Yes.
keep, I know. And it's so funny. I'm laughing because I can hear people like, "You're so morbid. You're like, how can you laugh after saying something like that?" But it's like,
It's true.
if I wake up every day and I'm thinking like, okay, today might be my very last, or I'm just a day closer, it allows me to live more. Like, it allows me to actually jump and make those decisions that I would be like teetering the line and not too sure what to do. It reminds me to put on that outfit. And I'm dye my hair green,
Let's go.
like so like you get to live, you get you live more. And that's what, my the biggest message out of all of this is for me. It's like, hey guys, like, we're gonna die, like, let's live. And
Let's live more.
let's recognize that, like, we're all on a timer.
Yeah. And what you do at that time is up to you.
Absolutely.
Let's go. Why is creating space for these conversations, because we creating segues for these conversations, so y'all can go
Yeah.
ahead and subscribe to the Hub Summit and subscribe to both Healing in Black and Soul Tribe, so we can have more of these conversations with Renee. Why is creating space for these conversations about death and grief so critical to our overall well-being and health, mental health as people?
Yeah, just like we just said, if we're aware that we are running out of time, because be, death being taboo really disconnect us from that, right? Down to the fact that like we don't even talk about it with our children, and it's like, why? I know
Yeah.
for me as a mother, my most important thing is to make sure that I'm showing up for my child, right? In every sense of the way. Like, I would hate to leave my child unequipped um
Mhm.
with certain life situations, right? And I know that some people might find this a little unhinged, but I have these conversations with my child. I've been having death, end of life conversations with him since COVID, because I remember once I had COVID, and I was lacking I was lacking support, right? I had COVID, and I woke up one day and I realized that like people are dying, and I'm not far removed from any of this, and I don't know, like, what if
Mhm.
I'm next? And I remember being in the moment of realizing that, like, if I was to die today, like, where would that leave him? He wouldn't even have the mentality to even understand, and it's just simply because it's not a conversation that we're having. It leaves people unprepared in a
Mhm.
mental headspace, because you don't think about it. And it's just the same way where it's like, we're desensitized to aliens. Why? Because we've been watching movies about aliens invading and aliens being among us for so long, that when we heard that, oh yeah, it's true, aliens are real, everybody's like, okay, I got my
Yeah, okay.
mortgage to pay, like,
I
whatever.
got rent.
Right,
My
exactly. Unless
electric
these
bill. I
aliens.
gotta eat.
Exactly. So to me, it's the same way. It's the more that we talk about it, we're more desensitized from this big moment that happens when we hear death. And so I've been doing it with my own son, and now it's a very common topic. I think that it catches people off guard, because sometimes my son will come out, he'll be like, when you die, I'm going to, and people get off put by it. But I know that now it's something that he is aware of it happening. So if it was to happen today or tomorrow, I've already given him very strict instructions on what to do and how to process that emotion.
And because of you, my son is 4 years old. I'm starting to teach him what it is that you have a 45-year-old mother. Okay. So that doesn't mean that mommy is going to be here when you get older. I
Mhm.
can or I cannot. But we're having those conversations even at 4. and he's understanding what death looks like. He's understanding what it may feel like. Mommy might not be here, and knowing that mommy still loves you. So it's important to have these conversations so your children can be okay with the idea of, okay, this is what my mommy said. This is what my mom let me know, or my dad, or the people around me. These are the steps that I need to have for that to happen, just in case.
Mhm.
So I love all of that. Now, we're going to talk about the practical wisdom and the empowerment. Um, what is one simple ritual? What is one simple ritual for honoring a loved one you can share that someone can do today, even if they have just 5 minutes?
To celebrate them, is to live, allowing them to live through you, while you still have the opportunity to experience this realm. So like I say, whether it's listening to their favorite song, eating their favorite foods, or even wearing their favorite color, but is to allow them to live through you. And so you're able to still feel their presence. I think that's an easy way to call onto them, is to feel their presence, and it's also from a high vibrational type of space. It's not coming from like this very sad. It's more so like it's an honor to have known so and so, or it's an honor to have experienced you. Um, and so this is a piece of you that I'm going to take with me today. And that's what I like to share with others, is you just live, allow them to live through you and continue to live.
I love that. Well, that's it. How can people learn more about your work? Seek the support. We're going to tell them all that. Now, look, y'all don't experience all of Renee and all of her gloriousness, okay? Now, what y'all need to do is go on and click down there, or wherever that thing is. Click in the space where it says subscribe now, and you can check out all of the things that we have to offer so you can get connected to Renee. Renee, if you don't mind sharing like the places where they can connect with you outside of the community, but when you guys do connect with Renee inside of the community, you're going to get discounted deals that you won't get in other places when you connect with her. But go ahead and share with the audience what you got going on, boo. Where can they
Well,
find
what
you?
I got going on, I've put together, I've curated just some fun content through TikTok, where I've really tried to keep the topic of grief very light, and very personal, right? Because I'm not removed from any of this. These are things that I have to constantly practice within myself and for family members who's passed away. So I'm no stranger to grief, right? But I think that I've have a my lens is slightly different. And so I would like to bring some lightness to it, right? And just so when you do look at my content, I know it doesn't align with what grief should be, but honestly, what grief is whatever we say it looks like. And I think that it's time that we reclaim our life by reclaiming death, and just kind of taking it, pushing it off that pedestal that I think that we've all placed it on, and not allowing it to be something that we need to fear. And
I love it.
so that a lot of my content speak on that. A lot of my content speak on the different types of grief, just the little small moments in our lives that we do experience grief, that we'll get to practice certain skills that will be very useful for when we do experience bigger griefs, like someone passing away, or an end of a marriage, or something that's much more on
Moving
a
cross
grander scale.
country.
Right, moving cross country, or what people find themselves doing now is moving across the world, right? I'm starting to get a lot of like calls about that, and the shock and the grief that comes along with moving across the world. Um but I do have a link that I'll be posting on my TikTok, where you can directly reach out to me, if you want to have a small conversation, or you want to some of my services,
It's gonna be it's gonna be in the community,
but the
y'all. That
links
that
are gonna
that
be
link
somewhere
that
around
link
here.
that link that she talking about right now, how you could connect to her, is right there in the community. Wait, y'all, it's right here. But it's good because we need the engagement, as I stated before. we need your engagement. So we're going to be posting our links, posting our information as far as our content within this group, within our communities, because we need your engagement. And we know that because you are here today, that our information is vital to you. You won't have to go out and search and find her because the algorithm is, once you like a person, she goes missing. You can go directly into the community and still connect to her through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever platform she chooses, and you can talk to her directly. And she's going to see it, and you're going to see her. So, all of these things are ways that you can connect with her. She needs followers. We all need followers. Follow us on the links, but know that if you can't find her there, you can always find her within the hub.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this portion of the Hub Summit. I am so thankful to have Miss Renee here, who is a part of both of our communities that we have to offer from the soul perspective and also within Healing in Black. So make sure you stay connected, be on the lookout for the next practitioner. And thank you so much, Renee, yet again, for taking out this wonderful time to share your beautiful magic as a human being and as an end of life specialist. Any final words that you have for the people?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you, NaKeesha, for putting together such a beautiful community for us to show up for ourselves and our community in the way that it's intended to be, right? For Black and Brown people, a safe space for us to unpack a lot of heavy topics such as death. But honestly, guys, just keep living and not allowing death to be something to be fearful about truly gives you a little bit more ammo to really live life till its fullest and to because at the end of the day we're on running time, so just be mindful
Yes,
of that.
that's it. Well, thank y'all. Thank you guys so much. Be on the lookout for the next practitioner because they coming up next.